Hello, and welcome to episode 125 of the REconomy Podcast, where we discuss economic issues that impact real estate, housing, and affordability. I am Odeta Kushi, Deputy Chief Economist at First American, and here with me is Mark Fleming, Chief Economist at First American. Hey, Mark, what you wearing there?
I am wearing my Eagles jersey. I don't know if you recognize the number 62. His name is Kelsey, and we are not talking about Travis.
Oh, okay. Well, I only know one Kelsey because
I knew it. I knew you would only know one. His older brother, only an all-pro center for the Eagles.
I'm gonna take your word for it, but I know the Kelsey that's married to my favorite singer, or going to be married to my favorite singer, Taylor Swift. So, nice of you to promote that marriage coming up.
Oh goodness, that was not my intent.
Well, awkwardly enough, I'm wearing my jersey too.
It's like we planned this.
It's almost like we planned it. And for those of you who are just listening to this episode, you should know that we also have a YouTube version of these podcast episodes, so you can see us in our full jersey glory right now. And I promise this will have some relation to the podcast episode that we're recording today. The theme of today's episode is actually Don't Stop Believin' in affordability.
Odeta, you're off to such a hot start on this episode because I can't believe that you beat me to the 80s reference today. Well done. And it sounds like today's episode will be, dare I say, maybe a little optimistic.
I don't even know that you know what you did there, but believe is also a Bills pun. So
oh, no. I did not know that I did that.
Yes. Okay, well, not so fast. I would say I'm being cautiously optimistic.
Yes, you didn't earn the nickname Debbie Downturn for nothing.
That's right. It's going to be a good news, bad news kind of episode. We'll begin with how we measure affordability, where it stands today, and finally where it might be headed. So let's start with exactly how we measure it.
Yeah, so when people say, oh, back in the day when homes used to be so cheap, they were usually referring to the sticker price, what we call the nominal price of the home. But affordability isn't just based on the price of the home. It's also based on what you earn, what it costs to borrow, the interest rate at that time, and how those things combine into how much you can afford to buy. That's why we created the Real House Price Index, or RHPI as we call it. It adjusts nominal house prices for changes in income and mortgage rates. In other words, your house buying power.
That's right. So take, for example, the fact that house prices today are actually 60% higher than at the height of the housing boom peak in 2006. But the RHPI, once adjusting for that income and interest rates, your house buying power is actually more than 8% lower than the peak. So affordability is better today than it was in 2006, despite higher house prices.
That's right. And the RHPI is our proverbial North Star for affordability. Typically, we report it back to 1990, but for today's episode, we are going to extend it into the past and do an annual RHPI all the way back to the mid-1970s to make some historical comparisons to those all-important housing years of the late 70s and early 80s.
Were very important. And what we found is that affordability in 2024 was low, but not as low as it was between 1979 and 1985 when mortgage rates ranged from 11 to 17%.
Those rates give me the shivers. I can't think of anything more home buyer spookier than a 17% mortgage rate.
That actually gives me a Halloween costume idea, but I digress.
I'm just imagining.
I'm just like I'll show up as a Fed chair or something. But those days were pretty scary.
Wait, a Fed chair, right? A chair?
No,
never mind. Never mind.
We're really killing it this episode. Yeah. Now, we took this analysis one step further by dollarizing the RHPI. So these dollar values show the cost of buying a home in the past expressed in today's dollars of buying power. In other words, they let us see whether homes were more or less affordable than today after accounting for what people earned and what mortgage rates were. So let's play out an example. Today's median sale price for a new home, or the 2024 median sale price of a new home, is about $420,000.
Odeta, this is uncharacteristically non-specific about $420,000. Are you sure you don't want to add a few more significant digits to that number? Can you resist?
I mean, if you're insisting,
of course.
I will absolutely give you the more specific 2024 median sale price for a new home was $419,508.
There we have it. No sense on this?
There were no cents on this, unfortunately,
Okay.
but you can blame the Census Bureau for that one. But once we adjust for incomes and mortgage rates using that RHPI, a home in 1981 would translate to more than $630,000 in today's dollars. So even though homes were much cheaper in those days' dollars, they were actually less affordable than today once you adjust for what people earned and what it cost to borrow.
They were the expensive old days once you factor in those sky-high interest rates. So let's settle the my parents bought a house for X debate. Yes, nominal prices were lower, about $69,000 in 1981. But if your mortgage rate was 17%, your monthly carrying cost did a lot of that heavy lifting. But as you said, using our RHPI approach, a 1981 home priced in today's buying power dollars is well north of $630,000. Meanwhile, the new home median price today has been hovering only in the low 400,000s per census. So by the affordability yardstick, the early 80s weren't kinder. In fact, they just look cheaper because we don't usually adjust dollars in those everyday conversations.
Exactly. So now that we have some historical comparisons, let's focus on where affordability stands today. According to our latest RHPI update, national affordability improved by just over 3% year over year in June, marking the fifth consecutive month with a year over year gain. Why? Well, a trio: moderating mortgage rates, slower nominal price growth, and rising household incomes. Preliminary data suggests July and August likely extended the trend, lifting affordability back to levels last seen in the fall of 2024, about 12% better than at the October 2023 low point.
Okay, so that must clearly be the don't stop believing good news, but I know Debbie Downturn is just going to make an appearance any moment now.
Indeed, she is, but I'm not
Mhm.
happy about it. Now, the not so good news is that the RHPI is still over 70% higher, i.e., less affordable than its pre pandemic 5 year average. So, yes, still improving, but a long way to go.
Yep, there she is to be sure.
Never too far.
But may I inject a silver lining here? Because maybe the pre pandemic 5 year average was far from average.
I can believe that.
Okay, that was a nice setup for sure.
After all, mortgage rates were low by long run standards, and that by definitely increased house buying power and affordability.
Exactly. And because I just can't stop believing, the national numbers hide a big geographic affordability story under the hood. We're seeing price deceleration and even declines in many markets. In fact, 27 of the top 50 metros that we track showed either declines or sub 1% annual growth in June. San Francisco led on the downside with a nearly 6% year over year price drop, while at the same time, Louisville on the other side in Kentucky posted a 7% gain.
But affordability actually improved in 39 of 50 markets we track on an annual basis. So that's the slow comeback we're talking about. But isn't this sort of bad news for potential sellers?
Well, sort of. I mean, we're going to have to do the on the one hand and on the other scenario here, as economists always do, because for sellers worried about waning pricing power, some perspective, as of June, prices are below their peaks in 42 of the top 50 markets, including a 13% drop from peak in Austin and a 10% drop from peak in San Francisco. But remember, pandemic era equity remains largely intact. Austin's prices, for example, surged 65% from February of 2020 to June of 2022. San Francisco rose 31% over roughly the same time period. So even with recent price declines, a lot of homeowners are still sitting on significant equity gains.
And I think it's important to talk about what's driving some of these regional differences. In markets where active inventory is building, sellers are facing more competition and trimming prices, which combined with income growth lifts affordability. In uptrending price markets, the gains in income aren't always enough to offset price appreciation, so that RHPI rises. Remember, RHPI rising means lower affordability. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit to talk about affordability, specifically for the potential first time homebuyer. And to do that, we actually use our first time homebuyer outlook report. Consider that potential first time homebuyers are, by definition, typically renters, and we define our renter affordability as a function of the median renter's house buying power and the share of homes that are for sale within that budget. House buying power comes from renter household income, the prevailing 30-year fixed rate mortgage, and we assume 1/3 of the pre-tax income goes to the mortgage with a 5% down payment, because often those first time homebuyers don't put 20% down. Then we compare that to actual home sales data in each market by using First American Data and Analytics home sales data to calculate the share of affordable homes.
Now, you mentioned the median renter, but our analysis actually shows or allows us to look at anyone in the income distribution. So we could look at the share of homes affordable to the 1th percentile renter, or the 100th percentile renter, the 25th percentile renter, the 75th percentile renter.
Okay, I think we get it. I think our listeners
Okay.
get it.
I go on.
We can do it for the full income distribution.
Exactly.
Yes. Now, at a national level, that median renter, who can also be considered the median first-time homebuyer, could only afford 25% of homes for sale nationally in the second quarter of 2025. That's down from 28% in the last quarter of 2024. That is not so good.
Yes, not great. But there are, of course, local market variations. Out of the top 50 markets we track, the most affordable was Memphis, Tennessee, where the median renter could afford 38% of the homes for sale. And the least affordable was LA, where the median renter could afford only, I had to check this stat when you wrote it down, 1% of the homes for sale.
That is a tough market to be a first-time home buyer. Now, we know how much affordability varies depending on where you are in the country, but I'm wondering, and this is where the jerseys come in, if we can take it one step further, and since football season has begun, can we track which NFL divisions are more affordable? I'm also interested to see how your Eagles stack up against my Bills.
I cannot resist the challenge. Of course you're on for this. And we break all these markets up by what better way than NFL divisions? It makes so much sense.
Sure.
We actually did something very similar last year using our sale price data. We called it the house price blitz. Get it? Okay. Yep. In that analysis, we found that the NFC West had the highest median sale price because it was home to 3 of the most expensive markets in the country: San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Seattle. The AFC North had the lowest median sale price because it included 2 of the least expensive markets in the country, Cleveland and Pittsburgh. This analysis, though, will be slightly different since we're tracking first-time home buyer affordability specifically. And we found, drum roll please,
the AFC South takes the top spot, averaging about 25% of homes affordable to the median renter. So, for example, Jacksonville leads with 34% of homes affordable to the median renter, with a median home price of about $344,000 and a median renter's income of nearly $66,000. But Indianapolis isn't far behind, with 30% affordability, a median home price of about $311,000, and median renter household income near $56,000.
And in this year's house price blitz, the NFC North comes in second, thanks to markets like Detroit, where the median renter earns about $43,000 and can afford 30% of homes for sale, with a median home price of $260,000. Chicago helps the division stats with a 29% affordability rating, median renter household income of $62,400, and a median home price of $350,000.
And in last place, again, is the NFC West, averaging just 7% affordability. In San Francisco, the median renter earns nearly $95,000, but with a median home price of $1.2 million, only 4% of homes are within reach. LA fares even worse, with just 1% affordability, given the median renter household income of about $63,000 and a median home price of nearly $1 million.
So that's all very interesting, Odeta, but I feel like you're dodging and weaving like your great running back James Cook, because you haven't forgotten the challenge, have you? Which market is more affordable, Philly or Buffalo?
Okay, well, here's the thing.
I think I'm going to take this hesitation. You can't change the rules. This is clearly confirmation that the Eagles must have won.
Okay, I may have challenged you to this before I had checked the data.
Uh-huh.
It's fine. Yes, the median renter can afford 27% of homes in Philly and just 23% in Buffalo, even though the median sale price in Philly is actually higher compared with Buffalo. But you know what, Mark? We're going to settle this once and for all at the Super Bowl. I'm calling it now.
Now, that would be a great and welcome matchup. Early days, though, Odeta, early days. Both teams are off to a great start. So, yes, I'm hopeful that I will see you in the Bills and the Super Bowl, and we will have to wear these jerseys again.
I think we will. I will see you there. And to our listeners, because we put a lot of data out there on today's episode, the first-time homebuyer outlook data and the football analysis is all available on our economics center at firsthand.com/economics. Now, we just have one more item to settle before we close out this episode. Where is affordability headed?
We couldn't end there. We got to go one step further. Goodness gracious, because it's so hard to say with any degree of certainty, since as we've covered today, affordability is a function of rates and income and house prices. But from where we're sitting today, mortgage rates have moderated, incomes continue to rise, and house price growth is slowing. All signs that affordability defense is struggling. Get it? If that trend continues, we'll see a slow and steady improvement. Field goals instead of touchdowns, maybe.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I think we're going to end on that positive note. Just one more tiny thing before we go. Go Bills.
Hey,
all right.
Wait,
nope, sorry, episode's over. Thank you all for joining us on this episode of the REconomy Podcast. If you have an economics-related question you'd like us to feature in the future, you can email us at economics@firsthand.com. And as always, if you can't wait for the next episode, you can follow us on X. It's at Odeta Kushi for me and at Fleming Econ for Mark. Until next time.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
You had to get it in there.
Victory. Of course.